Good morning.
Good morning.
How's it going? How was everybody's weekend?
Good. How was yours?
Great. I'm actually in California right now. I have been at the beach all weekend, so we'll see if my connection holds up while I'm at the beach right here. But it's been wonderful.
Did you watch the Super Bowl?
No, I actually didn't even turn it on. Is that bad?
No, I didn't care about it besides the halftime.
You know, and I did turn it on for 2 minutes during the halftime show, and the halftime show was super weird too. You know, just because of COVID, like just weirdness, right? Yeah. So I don't know if you can hear. I don't know how bad the mic is, but I have the door open and I can hear the waves crashing like right now. I would sit out there, but first of all, I don't think I'd pay attention to class. And number two, it's a little chilly, right? So I'm in Oceanside. My sister has a place right on the beach. So that's empty. So my poor senior in high school, whose entire year has been canceled, right? Like no dances, no prom, no senior trip, probably no graduation, all of those things. I took her over here with one of her friends for the weekend. So that would be like her pseudo senior trip. So that's kind of fun. Can you hear those waves? I'll walk you. We'll take a field trip outside shortly, just so you can be more jealous of me, right? um, okay, so in just a minute we'll do a warm up. Who are we missing? Olivia. Did I let Malachi in? Malachi's the only one I'm not sure. Yes, Malachi. I let Malachi in. Okay, good. And I love your partner in crime, Yesenia. Very nice.
Thank you. This is my mom's dog, and she just had surgery.
Oh, very cute little doggy sweater there. Okay, so if my connection is bad, I'll just switch. So just be patient. How many of you remembered to do your assignments last night? Some of you did them on Thursday. Some of you are like, wait, assignments? Did we have some assignments? We did. Did you notice there was a ton of vocab in there? Yeah, like lots of vocabulary about statistics that you've probably never heard of before. Yeah, some of it might seem a little bit familiar, but so today, my plan today, here's how the mini lesson works. You watch some videos or you read some of the textbook and then you try some problems. Then the next day in class, I'll go over that material. So you're previewing the material, then I'm going over it again. And then after class, you'll do homework on that material. So it's kind of so you can see it several times and then you'll be ready for questions. Now, when you were doing the mini lesson, if you're like, oh my gosh, this is so much, you might want to take some more time to go over the textbook if that's easier for you. Okay. All right. So you had a quiz on Thursday. For some of you, it was kind of fun, right? To do a quiz that was kind of short. You knew all the answers. You're good to go. For some of you, I will say it was probably less than fun. You were like, I thought I knew what was happening. And then she asked me a question and then I didn't know what was happening anymore. So some of you just had some percent errors going on. Okay. Am I breaking up for you guys at all? Am I good? It's pretty exciting. I might just move here. I'm just kidding. I can't afford to move here. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully. And we're going to look at today. For those of you who do not know, it is Black History Month. And I have lots of quotes. I found a great calendar of quotes for Black History Month. This is a quote from Denzel Washington. I don't know your opinion of Denzel Washington. You like him, you don't like him, whatever. It's kind of irrelevant. The whole idea here is just to hear some different voices for during this month. Instead of, I could have just done all mathematicians, right? But I was trying to make it a little more appropriate for this month. Okay. We're going to do a Mindfulness Monday. It's only 1 minute long. I think you'll like this one. If you've never done this one before, this is a good one. Find some sort of scratch paper or whatever kind of paper you want. And we're just going to take 1 minute and write down as many things as we can that you're grateful for. Okay. And then if you keep this little piece of paper somewhere that you can refer to when you're stressed or, unhappy or anything like that, I think it might remind you. So I'm going to start a timer for just 1 minute. And like I said, write down as many things as you can that you're grateful for. Like I'm grateful that I got to sit near the beach. Okay, begin. All right, believe it or not, that was 1 minute. How many things did you come up with? Did you come up with a lot? Yeah, I came up with a lot of them. So, and it depends on how you listed them, right? Like if you just said, I'm thankful for family, then that might have been a pretty big category because you could have said, I'm thankful for my mom, my dad, my kids, right? All of these things. So, that's a really nice thing just to keep with you, especially if you're having some stress. I like that. Mindfulness Monday of gratitude, it's pretty quick. Okay, let's do a 3, 2, 1 chat. When you hear the word statistics, what does it make you think of? When you hear the word statistics, what does it make you think of? Don't hit enter yet. All right, 3, 2, 1, enter. Nice. Read through those. We have a lot of good things going on here. Data analysis, numbers, and how to lie with them. Love that since my degree is actually in statistics. I appreciate that a lot. Collecting data, percentage of a group, analyzing data, numbers, averages, percents. Okay, Yesenia, explain. Fun with Dick and Jane.
Literally, anytime I think of statistics, I think of that movie, Fun with Dick and Jane. It's a comedy, and the whole time he keeps trying to say statistics while he's on the news. So it's an inside joke with my family. We're always like, statistics.
I love that. I've never seen that movie. Is it worth watching?
Yes, it's. Mhm.
Hey. Relationship between numbers. That's a good one. Numbers. Word problems. I don't know. Data. I love that, Jen Day. That is true. We do have lots of word problems. Charge studies, percents, percentage and numbers, and data. I totally agree with those. So statistics is a pretty broad category, right? Statistics can be anything that we state any information about, but we usually try to group or like average. So like percentages are a good idea. So this is what our module is going to look like. Today we're doing intro to statistics. So this week we're going to do intro to statistics and presenting data graphically. So we're only going to do those 2 sections this week. But it's because there's a lot of info there and a lot of vocab there, and I want to make sure you get it. Then next week, we're going to be doing the describing a data distribution, measures of central tendency, and measures of variation. And then the following week, we'll do the last 2 sections, and then I'll give you an idea of when our quiz is going to be. We have a short week next week, so I don't want to cover too much too quickly, right? Did you know we have Monday the 15th off due to President's Day? Yeah, so next Monday we don't have class. So this just gives you an overview of what this is going to look like. Now, the next slide, hopefully you're not too depressed. You have new teams. I know, tier. So some of you might be on the same team as somebody from before, but otherwise I just mixed your teams up. So if you could right now rename yourself with the color at the end of your name. So you can just take off your last name if you want, because I'm pretty sure I know all your first names now, and just change it to the color. So on purple is Yesenia and Malachi. Blue is Aaron, Ashley, and Amari. Green is Olivia, Amanda, and Dom. Red is Deshay, Marty, and Angelina. And yellow is AJ, Jenday, and Valerie. And there is a method to my madness on how I put you on these teams. I put you with people that have similar interests in degree program study, or hopefully I did. Some of you I might not have known. So, and then I'm going to get your breakout rooms ready because I want you to get to know your new team. And I'm going to give you some questions to answer. So Yesenia and Malachi and Aaron and AJ. No, Aaron and Ashley. We have so many A names in this room. And Amari. Olivia. Does everybody know how to change their name? If you hit the 3 dots in the top right-hand corner, you can rename yourself. Okay. So what we're going to do next is we're going to answer these questions in your breakout rooms. You're going to answer, would you rather live in a houseboat or live in a log house in the forest / the mountains? And the other one is, would you rather have a horse's tail or a unicorn horn? Okay, so answer those two questions with each other, introduce yourselves, and then when you're finished, you can discuss one thing you learned about how to be successful in this class, in my class. Like, did you learn something about doing your homework or studying for a quiz or whatever you might have learned? Okay, so I'm going to open your rooms. is terrible. I have students in class. I disconnected from our Wi-Fi. I gotta go change the laundry. Sorry, I left it on. Hello, hello. Welcome back. So, I hope you like your new groups. If you don't, too bad. Just kidding. um, you might have noticed that some of you are interested in the same things like social work or business or like we have just a random little group too that's like nursing and then maybe health and then so we just have a variety here and I hope you got good clues about how to be successful in this class. Did you give each other good hints like what you should do? Yeah, like I don't know, do your homework, something like that. Maybe that would be my hint to you. Just kidding, but really ask questions if you're confused. That's a biggie, right? If you don't know what assignments are due or how to access them or do something like that, that's when you really need to answer questions, ask questions. I don't know if you liked my would you rathers, but just in case you're wondering, horse's tail or unicorn horn? For sure, unicorn horn. Because by the way, I'm pretty sure I already have a horse's tail with my hair, so I can't imagine it being even lower. That would be problematic. I know you can groom it, but then what's the point, right? And a unicorn horn, I'm pretty sure is magical. So I might have just read that into it, but I'm pretty sure then I'll have magical powers, right? And if I'm that magical, can't I get rid of the unicorn horn if I want to? I'm just saying, like, think about it. Houseboat or log house in the mountains? Not that you care, but I would say I need both for different times of the year, right? So I always find a loophole in would you rather, except for I definitely don't want a horse's tail. Just FYI. Okay. So on to a little more mathy things. So population versus sample. These are probably some vocabulary words you already saw. So I've color coordinated this slideshow in hopes that will help you remember things. So do you notice population is in yellow and sample is in blue? So population is when we have the entire group, so all the individuals in a study. We don't often have the population, right? We often just have a sample. So a sample is a subset of the population. So it's a smaller group. Now, ideally, it's very representative of the sample, of the entire population. And that's why statisticians have to be really careful when they're doing some kind of study and they're sampling a population because you don't want to only sample certain groups. And you could see that in if you've ever read survey results and then you look at who they surveyed and like all the people they surveyed were paid for being in the survey, that might cause some problems, right? Or if I was taking a survey at MCC and how I did it was I just stood outside my door and whoever walked by, I asked, you might think that's a random sample, but it's not because who walks by my door? Probably math majors, right? Or science majors or things like that. So you have to be really, really careful. And like I said, population is everybody. So if I was going to give a statistic about MCC, I would have to ask every single student at MCC. That's probably not, and they try that, right? But they don't usually get those results. So a sample is just a smaller group.
So
Yeah.
let me ask you. So when they say random, random is anything but random when it comes to this. It has to be a very sort of curated selection of
Yeah,
the
so
population.
interesting, Marty. So there's lots of kinds of random sampling.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's stratified random sampling, which stratified random sampling is probably the best because when you notice that you have different within your population, you have kind of subpopulations and you want them all represented equally, then you would do random sampling within each one of those populations. Does that make sense? A perfect example is I graduated from NAU with my undergraduate degree in statistics and I ran out of math classes to take. So I had to take a forestry statistics class, right? So every person in there was a forestry major except for me. So when you're looking at forests, you have to do stratified sampling of the trees because you could tell that they grow in different areas, right? And they have different, so you have to look at, okay, in this area, I'm going to sample, and then I have to sample more in this area instead of just randomly sampling, right? So random, yeah, Marty, can be problematic, right? And then notice I have parameter versus statistic, and parameter is in yellow and statistic is in blue because a parameter is a value about the population. So it's a value about everything in that population, whereas a statistic is about a sample. Okay, so most of the time we have statistics, we don't have parameters, right? Because parameters would be if I got the data from every single person in the population. You'll see more when we do some examples. Census versus sample. We just finished the census. Yes, in the United States, we just finished it. And the census is a true census in the United States. It says we're going to count every single person. That is the goal. And that's why we have census workers that follow up with people who haven't answered the survey and things like that. So it's actually in our Constitution that we will do a census every 10 years, just in case you didn't know that. Some of you history buffs might be aware of that. Whereas a sample, again, notice that sample word is similar to what so we have population and sample, but then we have a census and sample. Again, it means the same thing. It's a smaller subset of the population. So if we survey the entire population, that's called a census. If we only survey some of them, that's called a sample. So again, census is in yellow, samples in blue. All right. Now I want you to look at this scenario, okay? And then think about what the population is, how you would define that, and then what's the sample. So studies are often done by pharmaceutical companies to determine the effectiveness of a treatment program. Hello, coronavirus, right? We've been doing this a lot. That's not what this question is about, but you can relate it to what we're doing right now. Suppose that a new AIDS antibody drug is currently under study. It's given to patients once the AIDS symptoms have revealed themselves. Of interest is the average or the mean length of time in months patients live once they start treatment. A researcher follows 40 patients with AIDS from the start of the treatment until their death. So I'm going to give you about a minute to think about that. If you need to reread it. How would you identify the population and how would you identify the sample? Think of those two things. All right. Anyone can identify the sample and the population? One might be easier for you than the other. It doesn't matter. Any volunteers? Oh, we can go to voluntolds. I'm fine with that. I'll just get out my handy dandy random number generator and I will choose one of you. Let's see. What do we have?
Would the sample be patients with AIDS?
Very nice. And then what? So would it be all patients with AIDS or a certain amount of patients with AIDS for the sample?
40 patients with AIDS?
Okay, so Amari says the 40 patients with AIDS are the sample. How many of you agree with that? Dom agrees. Aaron agrees, I think. Marty agrees. Excellent. Now, then what is the population then?
I thought the population was 40.
Oh, interesting. Okay, good question. So it says, it's interested in patients who have AIDS symptoms, right? So the population would be anyone who has AIDS symptoms, whereas the sample, the researcher is only going to do those 40 people, right? So a population is usually going to be a bigger amount. Okay, so right here, the population of interest is people who have AIDS, whereas the sample is 40 AIDS patients who are in the study. Does that help?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Excellent. Sometimes they're the same, but not always, right? Okay. Let's look at parameter versus statistic. Remember, a parameter is a value about the population, so that would be everyone. A statistic is just from a sample. So again, it's the same scenario, right? The exact same scenario. So what's the parameter that we're interested in, and what's the statistic we're interested in? Think about what they're measuring. What does it say they're measuring there?
The effectiveness of a treatment program.
Yeah, and what is it measuring? How do they know if it's effective?
The 40 patients with AIDS from the start of the treatment until their death.
So what are they measuring though? It'll be a number.
How long in months they've been taking it?
Exactly. It's actually how long in months that they live. Okay. So how long do they live if they're taking this treatment? So do you see where it says average length of time in months? So the parameter would be how long do all patients live, right? But the statistic will be how long the mean length of time these 40 patients live. Okay. So the parameter is the mean length of life of all AIDS patients after treatment begins. But we don't have that. We only have the statistic, which would be the mean length of life of the 40 AIDS patients. Dom, does that help you see? You're on the right track. You just need to pull out like what they're measuring, and they're measuring the mean length of time.
I just had to be a lot more specific.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you'll find with statistics. Okay. I'm going to put you back in your breakout rooms, and I'm going to share a document with you. And the document that I'm sharing, notice the purple and blue teams, so you have to know what team you are on, are doing voters, whereas the green, red, and yellow are doing political science. So I'm going to put your doc in the chat. You don't have to make a copy as long as you can just view it, because you're not doing a whole lot, with it. If you want to do a share a doc, you can. If you want to share a whiteboard, you can, but you don't really have to, just so you know. So I'm going to share. This is for purples and blues. And just answer the questions on the screen. So on this doc, that's for purples and blues. And then green, reds, and yellows. This one's yours. So what I want you to do is when you go in your room, you're going to complete the handout and just be ready to answer. It says present, but it's not really a presentation because it's not going to take you too long. Call me in your breakout rooms if you need help. Okay. Everybody have access to the doc if they need it. One person can share their screen. You guys know how to do this by now. We're in week 4. Okay. All right. So I'm going to open your breakout rooms again. Oh, Marty, which team are you on? Are you on? I don't know what color you're on. Hold on, let me look. Marty, you're on red. Okay, so I'll move you to red.
Which was it, the first doc or the second doc that was red?
The second one.
Second one? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
The one on political science.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep. Hello, hello. All right. So this was the first doc. Oh, is everybody back? No, hold on one second. All right. So this was the first document. This was team purple and blue. And if we just look at this scenario, it says the city of Raleigh has 9,500 registered voters. There's 2 candidates in the city council in an upcoming election. Oh, can you believe I'm talking about elections? Brown and Felice. The day before the election, a telephone poll of 350 randomly selected registered voters was conducted. 112 said they'd vote for Brown, 207 said they'd vote for Felice, and 31 were undecided. And then I gave you those definitions of population and sample in case you needed them. And then it asked you 4 questions. What's the population? What's the size of the population? What's the sample? And what's the size of the sample? So blues or purples? Let's have either blue or purple do 1 and 2, and then the other group do 3 and 4. So who wants to do 1 and 2, blue or purple?
We can do 1 and 2.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so 1, what is the population? And the population in general would be the registered voters in the city of, how do you say it? Raleigh?
Raleigh.
Raleigh.
Yeah.
And then the size of the population would be 9,500.
Very nice. Now, what's interesting, just in case you're looking through our textbook, when we're talking a population number, we say a capital letter. So on this one, we would write a capital N equals 9,500. And then when we do samples, we use lowercase letters, just so you know, just in case you're looking through your stuff and you notice that. All right, so good job. That was purple team. Blue team, what's the size of the sample?
So we got for the size of the sample, we got 350, but the sample itself is the telephone poll of randomly selected voters.
Very nice. It's the telephone poll of 350 randomly selected voters. Excellent. And then I think you had one more question, don't you? Oh yeah, well, you have 2 more questions. I didn't even see those. Sorry. Give the sample statistic for the proportion of voters who surveyed who said they'd vote for Brown. So what'd you get for that? Team purple or blue?
32%.
And how'd you get that 32%?
We did 112, which were the voters who said they'd vote for Brown, divided by the sample of 350.
Nice. So you did 112 divided by 350, which gave you 0.32. And then you changed it to a percent, which is why we reviewed percents first, 32%. And then it said if the sample is representative for the population, how many of the 9,500 registered voters would vote for Brown? Did either team get that? How about the blue team? Did you get that, number 6?
We got 3,040.
How'd you get it, Aaron?
So we brought that 32% back down into a decimal to 0.32, and then we just times that by that 9,500 to get the population of the 9,500.
That's perfect. Excellent. All right. And now how about the second groups, green, red, and yellow? This was your information. A political science surveys 28 of the current 106 representatives in the state's Congress. Of them, 14 said they were supporting a new education bill, 12 said they were not supporting the bill, and 2 were undecided. So let's do green, red, and yellow. Each take 2 questions. So which team wants to do the first 2 questions?
I'll go first.
All right, Dom, I'm ready.
For numero uno, what is the population? That would be reps in state Congress.
Very good. Very good. The representatives in the state's Congress. Excellent. How about
And
number 2?
for the size of the pop, we got 106.
Very nice. Excellent. All right. So another team, do you want to tell us the next 2 questions? What's the sample and then what's the size of the sample?
I can go.
I'm ready.
Okay, so the sample was the surveyed representatives, and the size was 28.
Excellent. All right. Last 2. I'm ready. These might have been the hard ones, right? The mathy parts. What'd you get? Sample statistic for the proportion of voters surveyed who said they were supporting the education bill. Anyone?
Is another team going, or should I just say it?
Well, I was waiting. I don't know. Dom is on. I was
Team
trying to.
Yellow? Are you asking for Team Yellow?
Yeah, Team Yellow.
Okay. It's 50%
How'd you get 50%, Valerie?
because 28 surveys and over 106 and equal out to yeah, it 50%.
So, but I don't think it was the 28 and the 106.
Oh,
I think it was how many said they were supporting it.
Oh, I'm sorry, 28. My notes are all messed up. 28 over, or 12 over 28 for education. So 28 for surveys and 12 for education.
How many said they were supporting the bill? Go back up to the question.
Twelve.
No. Jenday?
14.
There you go. 14. So it's 14 out of 28, which 14 is half of 28. So that's where you got your 50%, right?
Because it's half. Okay.
Very nice. Good. Good. All right. So 14 out of 28. Your answer of 50% was correct. So now it says, if the sample is representative of the population, how many of the 106 would support the new education bill? Jenday, do you know? Or AJ? Or Valerie?
We did 14 over 100.
100.
And the decimal would be 0.13.
So, but you're confusing your sample statistic and your population statistic. So how about red or green team? Can you help them out? What'd you get for that last one?
We did 106. The total divided by 2 would be 53, or like 50% of 106.
Very nice. So you were trying to find 50% because that was your statistic from your sample, right? Because there were 14 out of 28 that said they'd support it. So if you hold that statistic to the population, you would say half of those representatives, so 50% of those total 106 representatives will probably support the bill. So they took 50% of 106 or half of 106 and got 53. Does that make sense? Yellow team, is that better? Okay. And red team, you got the same? Yes, I hope so. Okay. So that was an example. And now you can probably see why we were practicing our percents, because now we have to apply them to statistics. Okay. So an observational study versus an experiment. These I think are a little bit easier. All you have to do is classify. Is it going to be a observational study or an experiment? So an observational study is we're just looking at things and measuring them. We're not changing anything. An experiment is where we're actually changing something, right? We're giving somebody a treatment or something like that. Okay. So let's do this in a chat. You can just put observational or experiment. You don't have to write out observational study if you don't want. So determine if this scenario is an observational study or an experiment. So it's the temperature on randomly selected days throughout the year were measured. So get that ready in the chat. Is that an observational study or is that an experiment? Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Very nice. It's an observational study because that's all we're doing is we're just observing. We're just recording. We didn't do anything to change the temperature, right? Okay, here's another one. A group of students are told to listen to music while taking a test, and their results are compared to a group not listening to music. Is that an observational study or an experiment? Get it ready in the chat. Don't hit enter yet. 3, 2, 1, go. Nice. Some of you are so excited. You just anticipate my go. Yeah, that one's an experiment because they're making people listen to music. So they're changing something. Okay, here's another one. A study is conducted to determine whether people learn better spaced or massed practice. Students volunteer from an introductory psychology class. At the beginning of the semester, 12 subjects volunteer and are assigned to the massed practice group. At the end of the semester, 12 subjects volunteer and are assigned to the spaced practice condition. So is it an observational study or is it an experiment? Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. So this one people struggle with a little bit more. This one still is an experiment. And it's because you can see that they're assigned to different things. So we're changing something. We're not just watching them. We're doing something to change it. Okay. No, you're good. It's good to make mistakes right now because there's a lot of words in these problems too, right? Okay. I hope that's the last one. A teacher wishes to know whether the males in his class have more conservative attitudes than females. A questionnaire is distributed assessing attitudes. Is this an observational study or an experiment? 3, 2, 1, go. Very nice. I think we're used to those kind of things. That's just an observational study. We're just observing. Okay. How many of you know what treatment versus control means? So a treatment is where you're given something, right? The experimenter is giving you something, whether it's a medicine or a new environment, like listening to music, any of those things. Whereas a control group is the control group doesn't get whatever that is. Sometimes they get what's called a placebo. Has anyone heard of that word before? A placebo? A placebo is like if they're giving medicine, they'll give people fake medicine, right? It won't hurt them, but it's not going to do anything because our mental state is problematic. If we think we're getting medicine, sometimes we get better just because we think we're getting medicine. Did you know that? Anyone who's interested in sociology or even nursing, there is something called the placebo effect where people think they're getting better. My niece, who's a doctor, was in a vaccine trial and she actually got the placebo vaccine. She did not get the vaccine when they were doing the trial. Okay. So a team of researchers is testing the effectiveness of new HPV vaccine. They randomly divide the subjects in 2 groups. Group 1 receives the new HPV vaccine. Group 2 receives the existing HPV vaccine. The patients in the study don't know which group they're in. So which is the treatment group? And then which is the control group? What do you think? And you can just say it out loud.
Group 1 is a treatment group.
Yep, because they're getting something new, which means group 2 is the control group, even though it's a little questionable, right? Because they're acting like the control group because we already have known results of that. Okay, here's a weight loss drug containing Garcinia, I don't even know how to say that, Cambogia. Somebody else knows how to say it, I'm sure. The subjects were randomly divided into 2 groups. The first received an inert, do you see how that means? Chemically inactive pill along with exercise and diet. The second got the test medicine along with the same exercise and diet. Patients don't know which group they're in, nor do the fitness and nutrition advisors. So which one is the treatment group? Any ideas?
The medicine one?
Okay. So the second group, the one that are taking the test medicine, are the ones that are the treatment group. The first group takes medicine, but it's fake, right? It's not doing anything. This brings up blind versus double blind. Now, you guys are in a time of a global pandemic. So we've been doing lots of research. You've probably heard more about vaccines and vaccines trials than you ever wanted to in your lifetime, right? And that being said, you may have figured out that sometimes they skip some steps to get through things faster, or they tell you which phase they're in, right? So they tell you which phase they're in. A study is not a valid study unless it's truly a double blind study, right? If we only do blind studies but not double blind studies, we have a problem. So what's the difference? In a blind study, the participant doesn't know if they're getting the treatment or the placebo, but the researcher may know, and that it can be problematic. Okay. And in phase 1 of trials, oftentimes the researcher knows, and it's important for health reasons, right? If the researcher knows in initial trials. But by the time they move to phase 3 and they're FDA approved in the United States specifically, they have to undergo what's called a double blind study, where neither the researcher or the observer or the participant knows. And it's because, like we said, we're humans. We read things into things on accident. So we have to be careful. So remember, we just talked about that diet plan, and it said the patients don't know which group they're in, neither do the fitness and nutrition advisors. So that is a double blind study because it says neither knows what they're in.
So I have a question. I don't know if you can answer this.
Sure.
So do drug companies do their own double blind studies, or do they have somebody else do them for them?
They usually have an independent like researcher look at their evaluations. So it depends. So what it is like the head of the drug company will like know exactly who's getting what in the trial, but then they have underlings who might still work for the company, but they have no idea who's who in the study. Does that make sense? They're just informationalists. And then
Yeah.
other outside companies, including the FDA, look at all the research and determine if their study was set up correctly or not. And if it was not, then they would never get approval. That's why all scientific things have to be published. So then it's gone through the rigor of, like you said, Marty, someone independent has to be looking at this instead of just the big drug companies that want theirs to be most effective.
Interesting.
Does that help?
Yeah. No, it just raises some serious ethical questions just by having drug
Yeah,
companies
well,
do their own studies, period. But yeah.
yeah. So, and right now we're in the heat of all of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Cool.
here's one. They have 2 groups again. It just says the patients don't know which group they're in. So if it only says the patients don't know which group they're in, we can't say it's double blind. We can only say it's a blind study. It might be a double blind study, but they didn't tell us that yet. Okay. So there's a lot of reading in this section. Can you tell? So make sure. And now I have 2 days for us to spend on this because we have so much more vocabulary. What we're going to go over tomorrow is bias, and which Marty, I think you'd be fascinated by as well, right? Because there is a lot of bias in research. So we have to be really careful that we don't bias our studies. And notice that you have homework in this section. You can start your homework whenever you want, right? It's not due till tomorrow night, the S1 homework. And then you're going to have S2 homework, a mini lesson, and then a homework. So the S2 mini lesson isn't due till tomorrow night, but if you wait for everything till tomorrow, you'll be super busy. Notice I also have a tutoring assignment, but it's not due until February 19th, which what day of the week is February 19th? I feel like it's a Thursday. Oh, it's a Friday even. So that was nice of me. So I'm giving you all this week and all next week to do that tutoring assignment. We'll go over it more tomorrow in class, but just make sure you do your exit ticket, and then that's it. You're done. Great job. Sorry it was kind of a weird day, but now you have a new color group. Isn't that fun? Some of you are purples and blues and reds and greens and yellows. Okay, I'm going to walk you over to the ocean now. Okay, just so you know, while you're doing your exit ticket. Let me see if I can even turn my camera around if I'm competent in that area today. Maybe not. If I stop sharing, I'll be better. Well, I can't even find my picture of myself. Okay. Can you see the ocean? Can you hear it? It's so loud. All right. So welcome to Oceanside, California. All right. See you later. Have a great day. I know, Ashley. Isn't that crazy? Yes, except for I have to leave today, which is depressing. But it's okay. I'll survive. Yes, I am glad I got to enjoy it for a bit. It's been amazing. I had 3 lovely days. Bye, guys. See you tomorrow.